US President Donald Trump has said in Qatar during a meeting with business leaders that India has made an offer to drop all tariffs, in fact, on US goods. Now, Trump said the Indian government has, quote unquote, offered us a deal where basically they are willing to literally charge us no tariff. No further details on the supposed offer were shared by Trump, however. Now, this very interestingly comes even as Trump told Apple CEO Tim Cook that he does not want him to make phones in India. Here's what Trump said.
We have Apple, as you know, is coming in. And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff. So we go from the highest tariff, you couldn't do business in India, we're not even a top 30 in India because the tariff is so high, to a point where they have actually told us, I assume you too, Scott, you were working on that also, that there will be no tariff.
Back Gaurie Dwivedi joins us to unpack this story. Gaurie, Trump telling Apple CEO Tim Cook, don't manufacture phones in India. What do you make of this?
Yes, very significant, Arjun, because even if, one says that President Trump is prone to making comments that are off the cuff, he's talking about trade, an issue that is very central to his administration and how it views foreign policy relations across the world. And for this statement to come out that trade, as far as those trade talks are concerned, India has decided to put off some of those tariffs that we levy on US goods is very important for two reasons. One, it paves the way for some sort of a conclusive trade deal to be finalized between India and US. There were roadblocks, there was some back and forth that was happening, and it seems that has been now addressed, and an India-US trade deal may actually be in the offing sooner than we expect. It's important to also note that India was one of the first set of countries to start talks with US under Trump administration. Remember, Prime Minister Modi went to Washington, D.C. as early as February 13th, early in the just weeks after he took over, to start those trade talks to ensure that India is first off the block, and it looks like that we're going to get that trade deal fairly soon. Now, the second aspect of this is one also needs to keep in mind that this comes just days amidst fair bit of chatter that has happened around how much of the discrepancy that exists between what President Trump said about 2-3 days back during Operation Sindoor when it was closed. After that, he's in fact mentioned and went on to say that trade featured in the talks between India and US, something that New Delhi has categorically rejected. It has done so in no uncertain terms. The trade had absolutely no role to play in any conversation between India and US that took place during the second and third phase of Operation Sindoor. In the backdrop of that chatter, that different views, we of course stand by what India has been saying. We firmly back New Delhi's stance on this, but it also brings to light as to how important trade is for the Trump administration and how central it is as to how it views relationships across the world.
Thank you so much, Gaurie, for unpacking that for our viewers here. Now, moving on, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Thursday, in fact, urged the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, to take charge of Pakistan's nuclear weapons. Now, this came during the minister's crucial visit to Jammu and Kashmir to take stock of the overall security situation, especially, viewers, along the line of control and the international border. Listen in to what the defense minister had to say.
आज आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भारत की प्रतिज्ञा कितनी कठोर है, इसका पता इसी बात से चलता है कि हमने उनके न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की भी परवाह नहीं की। पूरी दुनिया ने देखा है कि कैसे गैर जिम्मेदाराना तरीके से पाकिस्तान द्वारा भारत को अनेक बार एटमी धमकियां दी गई हैं। आज श्रीनगर की धरती से मैं पूरी दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल उठाना चाहता हूं कि क्या ऐसे गैर जिम्मेदार और रोग नेशन के हाथों में परमाणु हथियार सुरक्षित हैं? मैं दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल खड़ा करना चाहता हूं। मैं मानता हूं कि पाकिस्तान के एटमी हथियारों को IAEA, इंटरनेशनल एटॉमिक एनर्जी एजेंसी की निगरानी में लिया जाना चाहिए मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा और साफ तौर पर कहना चाहूंगा,
Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine remain up in the air as President Vladimir Putin is notably absent from Russia's in-person delegation list, and US leader Donald Trump has announced he will no longer go to the Turkey summit either. A US official said that Mr. Trump would no longer join the talks in Istanbul, having previously toyed with the idea of going if Putin was attending. Here's a report.
Three years, two leaders and one city. Russia and Ukraine are set to return to the negotiating table today, sitting face to face for the first time since the peace talks collapsed in 2022, in the early days of the war. Istanbul sets the stage for high-stakes diplomacy as officials from Moscow, Kiev and Washington meet for urgent talks as fighting reaches dangerous new heights on the front line. But who will actually show up? So far, it's unlikely that the three presidents will face each other, and two key leaders, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, are skipping the meeting. This despite the Russian leader having proposed direct talks last week. The US government has been growing increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress in its efforts to broker a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine.
What happens on Thursday if President Putin doesn't show up in Turkey for the talks with Ukraine? What will you do?
Well, I don't know if he's showing up. I know he would like me to be there. And that's a possibility. If we could end the war, I'd be thinking about that. Now, tomorrow, we're all booked out, you understand, we're all set.
According to the Kremlin, Putin will not travel to Turkey to attend peace talks with Ukraine that he himself suggested. Zelensky could also give the talks a miss, considering he asked for Putin to be present for the talks. Expectations from this crucial meeting are measured, and yet, as the bloodshed continues, this meeting could mark an inflection point in the 3-year-long war. Disha Bakshi, NDTV World.
Amid calls for boycotting travel to Turkey and Azerbaijan, flight bookings, in fact, to these two nations have dropped by 60% in the last 1 week, and cancellations have, in fact, surged to 250%. Make My Trip has confirmed. Now, the two countries had openly supported Pakistan after India launched airstrikes under Operation Sindoor on 9 terror sites across Pakistan and occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Following this, Indians launched a campaign on social media to boycott travel to Turkey and Azerbaijan, the contentious countries. Now, as per reports, the Confederation of All India Traders, with 40,000 aligned associations and 80 to 90 million members, in fact, has also urged Indian citizens and traders to boycott travel to these two countries. Meanwhile, Pakistan has received the second tranche of special drawing rights worth $1 billion from the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, under the Extended Fund Facility Program. The Central Bank of Pakistan said that the amount will be reflected in its foreign exchange reserves for the week ending the 16th of May. US President Donald Trump urged Qatar on Wednesday to use its influence over Iran to persuade the country's leadership to reach an agreement with the US. This to dial back its rapidly advancing nuclear program. Now, Trump, who is visiting the Gulf nation as part of a 3-country Middle East swing, made an appeal during a state dinner held in his honor, in fact, by Qatar's Emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Qatar over the years has played the role of intermediary, in fact, between the United States and Tehran and its proxies, including during talks with Tehran-backed Hamas as its 19-month war with Israel grinds on. Listen in.
You're also working with us very closely with respect to negotiating a deal with Iran, which is the far friendlier course that you would see. I mean, we have 2 courses. There's only 2 courses. There aren't 3 or 4 or 5. There's 2. There's a friendly and a non-friendly, and the non-friendly is a violent course, and I don't want that. I'll say it up front, I don't want that, but they have to get moving. I hope the Iranian leaders understand that what you're doing and really what you're doing for them is a big favor. You're Prime Minister, you're a great leader. Right here on my left has been helping so much, and they respect them and they're listening to them, but they have to get moving, and we both understand that.
During a state dinner at the Lusail Palace on the outskirts of Doha, Sheikh Tamim Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, asked US President Donald Trump to use American pressure, in fact, to bring peace to Gaza, where Israel has renewed its military operations. Qatar, in fact, has been an important stage for negotiations, and it has served also as an intermediary for Hamas. Al Thani, meanwhile, also told Trump that he worries about him during last year's assassination attempt in Pennsylvania's Butler. Syria's interim president on Wednesday praised US President Donald Trump's decision, in fact, to lift sanctions on the country. Trump had announced the day before, as he kicked off his three-nation Mideast tour in Riyadh, that he would move to lift US sanctions imposed on Syria under the deposed autocrat Bashar al-Assad. Ahmad al-Shara, or al-Jurani, as he was called previously, in fact, called Trump's decision a historic and courageous one that removed the suffering of Syrian people and helped their renaissance and set the basis of stability in the region. Meanwhile, Israeli military strikes killed at least 80 Palestinians across the Gaza Strip on Wednesday in an intensification of the bombardment as US President Donald Trump visits the Mideast. Medics said most of the dead, including women and children, Palestinian medics, these are viewers, were killed in a barrage of Israeli airstrikes on houses in the Jabalia area of northern Gaza. A Georgetown University scholar from India who was arrested in the Trump administration's crackdown on foreign college students was released from immigration detention Wednesday after a federal judge's ruling. Badr Khan Suri will go home to his family in Virginia, where he awaits the outcome of his petition against, in fact, the Trump administration for wrongful arrest and detention in violation of the First Amendment and other constitutional rights in America. Meanwhile, he's also facing deportation proceedings in an immigration court over in Texas. A Democratic lawmaker is launching a renegade effort to, in fact, impeach President Donald Trump, pushing past party lines on Wednesday with an attempt to force a procedural vote in the U.S. House that is expected to, in fact, fail. Republican Representative, in fact, Sri Thanedar of Michigan, announced his intention to charge ahead, saying that as an immigrant, he wants to do all he can to protect America's Constitution and its institutions. The Constitution and the country's institutions. His resolution contains 7 articles of impeachment against the Republican president. And on your screens now is what Sri Thanedar had to say.
I've had 14 in-person town halls. I have had tele-town halls that were attended by 11,000 people each time. And I've heard it loud and clear. People see this president has conducted impeachable misconduct. So those who are asking me, is this the right time to do it? I say it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. It's never it's always the right time to do the right thing. And we stand with the American people as we fight this president every day. Every day, every action that he takes that is unconstitutional, illegal, we are going to stand up and fight this, not worrying about the consequences, not worrying about what will happen.
The International Monetary Fund of the IMF is set to release $1.3 billion to Bangladesh in June. This after completing a 4th review of its $4.7 billion loan program and also a key breakthrough in talks on exchange rate reforms. The country's finance ministry has, of course, underlined this. Now, the funds covering both the 4th and the 5th tranches had been held up as the IMF pressed for greater exchange rate flexibility, particularly the adoption of a crawling peg mechanism. Former Bolivian President Evo Morales on Wednesday said he would not quit his presidential bid, responding to President Luis Arce's challenge to unify the divided ruling party. Now, this came after he announced he would not seek re-election in August elections. Now, Morales' political heir and now opponent Arce resigned his own candidacy on Tuesday and in fact called on Morales, on the other hand, to do the same. Morales, meanwhile, said Arce was in no position to make such a demand. Thai PM Chanavatra landed in Hanoi on Thursday for a two-day official visit to co-chair a Thailand-Vietnam joint cabinet meeting. Chanavatra is set to meet representatives of the Thai Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Vietnam and also Vietnamese private sector upon her arrival. On Friday, she will attend an official welcome ceremony and co-chair the fourth Thailand-Vietnam joint cabinet meeting with her Vietnamese counterpart, Mi Chin. A platform to promote bilateral cooperation, in fact, viewers, between the two Southeast Asian nations. Canadian Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne has said that PM Mark Carney's government is working towards updating its finances in a fall economic statement, suggesting Ottawa will not table a federal budget this year. Federal governments almost always, in fact, release a budget early in the year. One rare exception was, of course, as we know, 2020 during the pandemic, when the government did not, in fact, table one. Crowds poured onto the streets of Uruguay's capital on Wednesday to bid a poignant farewell to former President Jose Mujica. Now, Mujica, who died Tuesday, was a former guerrilla who became a pioneering leader and the icon of Latin America left, remembered most for his humility, simple lifestyle, and ideological earnestness.